Professor Keeley. I have another little visitor today. This is Lily again. She's a Shih Tzu, purchased her for my mom. So she decided that she wanted to visit and say hello. So she will be joining us for a bit. So today's discussion is on proactive versus reactive. And it's one of the things that I've already seen with my students is a problem. And so I wanted to explain, because it really comes down to time management and understanding how to be able to manage your time. This is a skill that, as I mentioned, you need to understand how to use effectively. Because if you don't, in the business world, it can cost you a job. It can cost you a promotion. It can cost you a client. I have been on big RFPs for $20 million accounts that literally they provide you with a technology tool that you have to go in, download an Excel sheet with all their questions on it, and then upload your answers either in the Excel sheet or in individual boxes. And there's a little ticker time. That's a countdown to when it shuts off. And when it shuts off, there's no going back. You can't contact the customer and say, oh, I'm really sorry I was late. Could I get another chance at it? The answer is no. You just know not to ask. If a client asks for some case studies that you promised and you said you would get them there at a certain time, you get them there at that time. The reason why is, and especially in sales, you are the first interaction that the client has with you. So you're setting the first promises of what your company will do. So if you say you're going to do something and you don't, customers will still talk to you, but that weighs on their mind. So I want to be able to talk about some different things that you can use for time management. Hang on real quick. So one of the things that I use is my personal calendar on my iPhone. And you can look at your iPhone here. As soon as somebody asks me to join a meeting, the first thing I do is I put it in my iPhone and I set a reminder timer. So I have 2 alerts that I can alert myself always the day before it's due and then an hour before it's due. And if I have to, let's say, travel to a client, I will add, because you can add in your travel time. If it's a Zoom meeting, I will put the link in here for the location, and it will actually put up a little button that says join, so that when I go to join that meeting, it's just a simple tap and it opens up my Zoom or my WebEx very easily on my phone, and then I'm into that conference call. So it becomes really important, especially as you have outside activities, that you learn to properly manage your day. Another tool, and I'm going to provide links to people who can explain it better, but this is what's called a Franklin planner. In the 1980s, and I am a Gen Xer, and I'm very proud of being a Gen Xer, we were dealing with globalization, we were dealing with the emergence of technology, and our brains got fried. You know, it was just like too much, too soon, too fast. So there was this called the Covey method and the Franklin planner. And what it did is it provided you with calendars like this. And again, I'll provide you with videos of people who can explain this, but it was a way to be able to keep track of events that you had going on a particular month. They still sell these. You can buy this document. I mean, actually, this is just a sticker that I put on, and I just put this on myself. I just bought it off of Etsy. These 2 things to make it personal. But you can still get these in thrift stores. I've seen them in thrift stores, the Goodwill, Salvation Army. So you don't have to spend a lot, or you can actually buy them on the Franklin Planner website. But in the 80s and the early 90s, everybody walked around with these. So you had by your months, these big months. And then you also had these little notepad things that if you had like an activity that you were doing, like a project, you would write those on here. You had value and mission statements. You had goals that you could set. You had finances, so expense reports or anything like that, you know, with your company maybe, your budget for your department, key information. So here's the monthly expense record. You can buy that form that goes with it. The key information. This is an information record. So if I wanted to write a book, if I wanted to do a project, I would write down like the people who are involved in the project, the dates that we were meeting, the next dates that were things were due. And then I didn't buy it, but you can get individual days for the calendars for each day. And the idea and the premise behind this, and just I'll go real high level, is that you took this everywhere and you created your to-do list every day. And if you would check it off, what you got done. And I'm a list maker. So it has been one of the keys to my success is that I'm so busy, I make a list of everything that gets done. Why is that important? Because people can sometimes become overwhelmed with the sheer volume of projects that they have going on or things that they have to do. So number one, making a list helps you remember everything. Because during the day, things come up, you might forget it. How many times have you said, oh, I forgot I had to do that? Well, if you put it on your to-do list, then it's on there. Now, all of a sudden, you might have this massive to-do list. And for me personally, one of the things that I do is I get all the small stuff done first. Because it's overwhelming to see a list of 30 to 50 things that I have to do that day. Whereas if I can get the small stuff off and literally check it off so I can see and use my visualization to my brain to out-psych it to go, oh, okay, so now I only have 5 big things to do. Or you could do your big things first and then leave all your little stuff. But there's a strategy behind getting things done. And the thing that was great about the Franklin Planner is if you didn't get it done that day, then you would carry it over to the next day as a to-do on your next day. So you never, ever left your calendar as a line item that needed to be done until it was done. And it was a way of really helping my generation manage the information overload that we were going on and we were handling with again, globalization. Here is an example of these little folders that you can get with different colors that help you track things. So for example, here's one where it's called Special Days. So if you're trying to keep track of your birthdays, your family's birthdays, your clients' birthdays, anniversaries for yourself personally, or for your clients or your boss, you put the special days on here. So now we have technology that does this, but sometimes, as I mentioned about like handwriting, there's something very tactile about using the Franklin Planner. And then they also have your name and address book back here, which that's become sort of outdated with your iPhones. But I will tell you, and this is if you want to get into conversation with me, I used to work for the cable industry and telecommunication industry. So I know that we are one solar blast from losing our communication satellites. And if you ask any Gen Xers, we can tell you the phone number, our old phone numbers. I remember Little Caesar Pizza phone number in Flushing, and they're still there and they still have the same phone number because we had to embed it in our brain. So if something happened out there, using your memorization skills or having a tool like this that's handy where all your key numbers are written down becomes really important, because if your phone goes dead and you can't charge it, you want to have something that's got numbers written down so that you have a backup system that's redundant. So does that sound like a lot of work? I'm sure it does. And that's why I'm encouraging you to think about building successful habits in college or in school or in dealing with me that are going to benefit you in the future. So again, I just turned to this because I'm in a PhD program. I'm teaching now full time. I'm writing my own papers, not just my PhD dissertation, but I'm writing essays, things for my PR agent. There's just so many things that I'm doing that I can't keep track of everything in my brain. So one of the successful things that the older generation has figured out is that we don't rely on our brains. We already know that our brains are on overload. So we turn to external tools to help us manage our time. Why does that become important in my class? Because last semester specifically, I had so many people that came to me and said, oh, my son had an emergency, or I had broke my clavicle, or I had a technology issue, or my boss had some special project. And at the end of the day, you have to treat school like it's a job. So if you no call, no show, and you just don't show up to my class, you don't tell me why, that's a problem. if you're treating me like I am your boss. Also, you have to start to think. Trust me, I've been in waiting rooms at the hospital. I've been in doctor's office where I've waited 30, 45 an hour for treatment, or with somebody getting treatment. So you have plenty of time to think, oh gosh, I need to talk to Professor Keeley and let her know that I have this emergency going on, to get consideration on the assignment. Now, again, that's being proactive and communicating with me in advance what's going on, not afterwards. Because I look at it, if you send me something afterwards, I have to be fair to everybody in my classes. One of the things you're going to find about me is that I am an independent voter and thinker. I feel like everybody in college or in politics should be independent, because if you are coming to me, you have to be able to form your own ideas. And how can you form your own ideas if you aren't getting all the information? So for me, I take in everything. I don't necessarily judge it. I take it in. And then, personally, I form my own opinions, but I'm going to try to give my classes the most, all the information I can, and be very fair. And I can't give one person consideration and say, oh yeah, you broke your clavicle. Absolutely. You can have an extra 2 days to get your assignment done. And then someone who says, oh, my kid had a cold and I couldn't do my homework. Can I get consideration? And me say, no, I'm sorry. So I have to be fair in the application of my policies in my class. So what I'm saying to you is, I'm not going to guarantee that I'll accept your reasoning. But what I am saying is, you will always get more consideration from me if you ask me in advance of the assignment being due than if you ask me after the assignment was already done. You're pretty much going to get a no. If you've not been communicating with me in advance of what's going on, that's going to prevent you from missing an assignment. But if you communicate with me in advance, you are more likely to get me to consider what's going on in your world, and I may or may not give you consideration for it. But I'm going to listen to you at least and make a determination if you're proactive. If you're reactive and communicating with me afterwards because you remembered suddenly that you had an assignment and you forgot to communicate with me, I'm going to say no. So again, this is time management. This is proactive versus reactive communication that you will use in the business world. Again, let me give you the example. No call, no show. If you were to go into your boss and you come to work and you didn't call him and tell him why you weren't at work for 2 days, he's going to be telling you that you're fired. Even though you may say, I was in the hospital and this and that. Again, if you're in the hospital, your family should know to get a message to your boss, whomever, that there's something going on with you as to why you're not there. The same thing here is that someone, preferably you, needs to communicate with me what's going on. And I get it, there's extreme circumstances. It may be a parent, it may be a spouse or a child that has to communicate on your behalf if something's going on. Hopefully that never is the case. But if you're traveling out of town, if you're going on vacation, if you've got a large project at work, something that you know is going to prevent you from getting your assignment done, please be proactive in your communication with me. I'm going to also put an extra credit out there where you can start to build a rapport with me. Because you need to. I'm going to always err on the side of being fair, but I'm going to have different feelings when I'm dealing with somebody who has worked really hard to build a relationship with me. So I know you're committed to the course, and committed to learning. That's different than somebody who's not engaged with me, who's missed several assignments already, who then says, hey, I've got this going on. I'm going to look at you and say, you're not serious about your education. So why should I give you consideration above everybody else? Whereas if somebody who's working really hard and has let it be known, asking me really good questions, setting up appointment times to meet with me during my office hours, asking questions, sending me emails, maybe even sending me articles that you've read that are interesting to you that you might want to get more clarification on, even if it's off the topic of business or that's building a relationship with your professors. So again, am I going to be unfair because I've got a relationship with you and there's a bias? No, I'm going to always err on being fair to everybody. But if you have a relationship with me and I know you're working hard, I'm more likely to see that you're working hard, that this is an exception, and allow the exception than if I didn't. So I just want to make sure that we talk about time management, and that we also talk about proactive versus reactive communication. Again, you're setting successful habits in my class that will benefit you in the real world. So what you're learning, I don't want you just to drop as soon as you leave my class, or you leave LCC. Take these tips that I've been giving you in these short videos, embed them into how you function, and I can guarantee you that when you get out into the real world, all these successful habits that you've built above and beyond learning the coursework will make you more successful.